This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock.
Welcome to another episode of The Bond Chronicles. This is episode 7, lucky number 7. My favorite number 7 just had a birthday on April 7th.
Hey!
So we got a lot to get into today. We've touched on a bunch of different topics in the 6 previous episodes. Some have been fun, some have been controversial, some have been kind of gut-wrenching, but ultimately we give you all of us. So today we want to give a little bit more insight into who we are. So we're going to get into a couple things. So we appreciate y'all joining in. We appreciate the love, the support, the subscribers. Y'all keep running them up.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So please
in double digits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. The views continue to do really well, very consistent. I appreciate that. I'm sure my lovely host appreciates it. So just continue to do that. Remember, like, share, subscribe, get the word out. As we continue to build, we'll be able to do even more and more and more. So without further ado, I am your lovely, gracious, super awesome, ready to go on vacation, happily celebrating the Bird year. For those of you who don't know, Larry Bird was number 33, sports legend. So now you know my age because I like to share and overshare. And I am Mr. Raymond Bond. I am Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter and Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram. And my lovely host sitting here is
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram, Ms. Bond Chronicles on Twitter.
And we are here on the Bond Chronicles episode. So we got into a episode, I don't know which number it was because time flies when you're having fun, right? But we got into music earlier on in the lifespan of this podcast. And so this week we want to get into TV shows. And so I feel like it's only proper that we start with our favorite TV shows to give you guys a little bit of insight into us. So I'll start and I'll let you dig deep into that vault of knowledge you have over there.
Oh,
dear.
yeah.
I am someone who I'm a viewer. I'm a visual learner. I like to be entertained. I like watching things. A lot of people say you should read. I do read, but I also would rather watch documentaries versus read a biography per se. That's just who I am. Nothing against those people who do read. So in my lifetime,
Like your wife.
I feel like you don't read much now. Since
I
we've been
don't know.
married.
Yeah, I don't really have the time like I used to.
I mean, you have a lot of time. Maybe not today, but early on in the relationship, you had a lot of time.
I mean, yeah.
That's how you watched 1,000 Naruto episodes and 1,001 Punch Mans and all those other animes you watched.
Yeah, true enough.
Actually, have you even read the book that I bought you? I didn't know you read it before. Have you since read it?
Yeah. They're after watching up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read it once, not like a bunch of times.
Since
you gave it to me? Yeah.
Oh, I never seen you read it. But so for TV, it's a big part of my life. It's a big part of our lives. There's a number of shows we watch together. There are a ton of shows we watched beforehand and a ton of shows that we think are great and the other person probably thinks is awful. So we'll get into a lot of that. So I'll start with my favorite show of all time, and this is very, very difficult. Probably more difficult than my favorite artist, to be honest. I really enjoy TV. I like a lot of variety in TV. I like comedy. I like drama. I like thug gangster stuff. I like
Scary?
Huh?
Nothing, go ahead.
So as I like cartoons. I like things that have been animated. A lot of time, for a long period of time, I thought animated movies were better than a lot of real life movies. So that's where I'm at. So that's where I'm coming from. A lot of different options. But for me, one that I believe is still, I would argue, is culturally relevant. Shout out to Michael B. Jordan and Idris Elba and a bunch of other people.
Say a bunch of people.
What's Michael? Omar. What's his real name?
Mm.
But if you don't know by now, my favorite show is The Wire. Just a phenomenal show from top to bottom. I personally am not a fan of the city of Baltimore. I have had very negative things to say about it in my life, but they produced The Wire. And that is just a phenomenal show. It's phenomenal in the day and age in which it was made. Even today, it's still a great show. It's produced a ton of celebrities.
Michael K. Williams.
Amongst others that you'll see. Wendell Pierce. Like, I'm not gonna read all of them off, but there's a ton of really big actors. And shout out to HBO. At that time and age, HBO was putting out a bunch. And when we get to kind of our top 5 list, there's gonna be some more HBO shows in there because HBO has done its thing and they've done a great job of taking care of their actors and actresses. So that's what I got for me. The Wire is my favorite show. Love it. And just big fan. What about you?
So, favorite show of all time for me is A Different World. Hands down, no question about it. I started watching A Different World. Geez, me and my sisters, we were little. And we always loved the show. I thought like 2 of the best castings on the show outside of the main cast were Diane Carroll and Patti LaBelle as the moms. Like, that duo, they were just life every time they were on screen. A lot of people obviously hated the first season because the first season was super dry. But that second season, right up until it ended, like, just fire. I loved the relationships that they all had with one another. I loved the stories that they told. Like, even today, watching the episodes, the content is still relevant to today.
Which is good and bad.
So yeah, some of it for sure. And even though I didn't end up going to college, like, had I gone, I definitely would have chosen HBCU because of A Different World. They made me want to join a sorority. It really just opened my eyes to more than what at the time was on TV. Like, I mean, for what it's worth, even now, like, there's some shows that have positive Black imagery in them, but that show was really what opened the door for me as far as, you know, Black folks are super dope. Cree Summer went on to do a whole lot. She has voiced so many different cartoon characters, like, it's insane. Everybody else just kind of, you know, did things here and there. Kadeem Hardison has done a few things. Jasmine Guy did a few movies and a few other things. But the impact of that show, like, I don't know anybody who, one, doesn't know it, doesn't have a favorite episode, or can't sing the intro theme song. And then went from Aretha Franklin to Boyz II Men. Like, it was just Black excellence before people were really saying Black excellence was a thing. Favorite episode is obviously the wedding episode because Ron held my man Dwayne down. Like, it was just a great feel-good show. So that is easily my favorite show ever. I still watch it, like, today.
So as you can see, we have very different views.
But I love The Wire.
No. And I appreciate A Different World. But as far as favorite, that's just kind of a contrast, which is fine. So the next thing we want to get into, and before I say that, we would love to hear you guys' favorite shows. So whatever you guys are into, whatever you guys are watching now, there's a number of things that we watch right now. We'll get into that a little bit later. But there's a ton of shows out there. If you guys have some suggestions, definitely let us know. So the next thing we want to get into is, you know how this goes, the top 5. And this, I prefaced it just because you can go in a whole different lane when you start getting to anime and cartoons.
And I'm like, because then that's garbage. Like, top 5 favorite shows, but no cartoons. Like, how is that a thing?
Because I feel like those could be two completely separate categories.
They're still TV shows.
They are, but for the sake of this conversation, we weren't going to do that because that would. There's just so many options, and I just didn't want to do that for this.
Like,
we can have a cartoon anime show later or anything like that.
Yeah, that'd be me like by myself though. Like I watch way more
You do.
than you do.
Yeah, but you watch. I know, and it's cartoon anime, not just anime. So there's a bunch of cartoons that I do watch, and we grew up on that are really dope. So we could easily have a show about cartoons, and then give you a portion for anime, and there's still one anime that's greater than the rest, but that's fine.
I mean, moving on before we go down that rabbit hole.
So for my top 5, and this again was difficult, and I'll kind of explain why I picked them, and then there could have been like 30 others that would have been number 6. So for me, Fresh Prince, and this is in no particular order. Don't want to go in order. I didn't put them in order. I will go in order. I'm going to make an order out of this, and hopefully I don't screw it up. So obviously The Wire would be first. I've already talked to you guys about The Wire. My second favorite show of all time would be Fresh Prince. And the reason why I really enjoyed it, and again, Martin loved that show as well. There's just too many. I'm not even going to do that. But Fresh Prince for me was just really dope. It was in a time in my life that was important and influential. A lot of these shows actually came out in similar time frames. No, 2 are really different. But Will, the family, seeing black wealth, but also not quote unquote selling out. Like Will went to the school, the prep school, he did all that, but he wore his jacket inside out. He wore the Jordans. But it was a great family dynamic. You had just 2 different worlds colliding in a way that was wholesome, in a way that was entertaining. Even Jeffrey and his role, and Will's influence on the family, but their influence on him, the mothers, the Phil,
mothers,
Phil, and his role and his experiences, and even from early on when they talked about when Will and Carlton stole the car, that was one of the first episodes, and just being culturally relevant. And they really didn't shy away, and I really do appreciate, and there's some shows that do that today, but not running from the narratives of society and facing them head on and putting it in corporate America or whatever you want to say is face. So I definitely had a respect for that. Third on this list for me, I am going to go with The Cosby Show. Similar to Fresh Prince in that it was black wealth, but it was a whole different dynamic in their household. They had a ton of kids, and as somebody that now has 3 kids, it was just a lot. You see Theo and Rudy, and just how they were able to handle them. Even the relationship you saw with their parents, and how the grandparents were such a big, important role in the kids' lives as well.
I always thought that was really dope.
Yeah, and that is definitely something I don't feel like we see enough. But it wasn't that the grandparents were raising the kids, but they were a part. And then the parents and the grandparents also had a really good relationship. There wasn't drama between the sides or anything like that. And there were just a lot of good life lessons, but taught from a fatherly to a son perspective. From a mother, like as far as Claire and what she represented, not only as a wife, not only as a mother, but as a professional. And in that era, to place her in that light, I think spoke very highly of her and really everything that it entailed. That was third. So fourth, I'm going to go with Power. I would argue, and I didn't do enough thinking about this, but Ghost might be my favorite TV character ever.
Really?
Like,
I mean, I could see that for sure.
He is, and this is a different show, and I'm not getting paid to say this, like, Raymond Reddington is also one of my favorite characters because they do what is necessary to get it done. Shows like Breaking Bad, and I watched Your Honor, and just there's a bunch of shows where the characters can't fully embrace who they are or who they need to be in order to be successful.
And that's super irritating.
And that is super irritating and super frustrating. When it's a situation where if they're playing a character like Godfather of Harlem, like he has to play that role. But when you're playing just a fictional character and you're trying to get to a certain point, there's sacrifices that need to be made. We watched Snowfall and so many other episodes where this heartstring and compassion of trying to circumvent a situation to save everybody, it gets people killed.
It does.
It gets people caught up. And Ghost didn't worry about that. The only soft spot he had was for his idiot son, and it cost him his life.
It did, which I'm still just mind blown that that's how they chose to end that show. Like, it's insane.
I agree. And typically, the reason a show like I loved Game of Thrones, but that last season was just awful.
It was.
And I won't say that. The last 5 episodes, up until the fight with the White Walkers, great show. And then it just fell off a cliff. So it couldn't be in my top 5 for that reason. But definitely Ghost, probably my favorite character. He played both sides. He was a businessman. He was a gangster. He murdered when he had to murder. He made deals when he had to make deals. And he constantly tried to save everybody, but when he had to make decisions, he had to make decisions.
Yeah.
And then finally for me, and this was really tough, there was a lot of episodes that fell into this category, but for me, it was Sopranos. Just super well orchestrated, super well acted. Another show that's made a number of stars out of it. A legendary show. I believe if it was on TV now, it'd still be relevant.
I never watched it.
Wow.
Yeah, I never did.
It's really good. The last season was good. The ending, there was a lot of controversy over the way it ended. But really, really, really good show. So those are my 5. There's a ton shortly thereafter. Shameless, Blacklist, just Martin, just so many other great shows. But that's my 5.
So I didn't know that you were gonna do top 5. So I didn't really have a chance to think about it until
in the notes.
Just now. Literally, I'm just now looking at the notes.
Oh, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, is what they say.
So top 5 favorite shows for me. I mean, obviously, A Different World, number 1 favorite show ever. Probably will be forever. There's not really anything that competes with the feels that I get from that show. Number 2, I Love Lucy. I know, it's so crazy.
Wow.
Because I used to stay up super late at night. I mean, not that I don't still stay up super late at night, but I used to stay up super late at night just to watch I Love Lucy. And I used to know all the times that it came on. At one point, I had a bunch of the seasons on DVD. I've probably seen every episode. And not just of I Love Lucy, but the Lucy and Desi Comedy Hour. And then she went on to do Lucille Ball. She had 4 shows. I've seen them all. Just who she was in entertainment at that time. There weren't a lot of women doing what she was doing. She commanded a lot of respect. She was one of the first women to have a lead role on a show, her name on it. I know Desi Arnaz was a big part of it, but it was her. Right. People watched it for her. And I always really respected that. And then she was just funny. And she was beautiful, but she was beautiful in a quirky, unconventional kind of way. I can get with that. And I always really loved that about her and just her in general. So definitely I Love Lucy. Carrie, my friend Carrie, is also a big I Love Lucy fan. Number 3, The Wire, because The Wire was amazing. From the first season to the last season, it was an amazingly well-written show. All the characters, whether you liked them or not, you needed them to be on the show for the show to keep giving what it was given. My favorite season of that was the fourth season, and that's when they introduced Michael B. Jordan's character. That's when they really started to play around with naming the Corner Boys, really. This when Marlo really came on the scene and started doing his thing. Like that season to me was like one of the best of the, I think 5. Yeah, 5 seasons. Just, and then like I said, all the characters were just so good. And then you just had appearances from really great actors like Glenn, Truman, like just great show.
And
so
from an ending standpoint, like it wrapped
up
and so well.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. Like A Different World, it ended, and I wasn't. I mean, I was upset. I mean, I was. It ended before I even knew about it.
Yeah.
But I saw the ending. I'm like, I'm good with that. I can live with that. The Wire, the ending came. I'm like, dang, I'm blown. But I liked how except for them killing Omar, like that blew me, and I didn't like. It did, but I didn't like how he went out. Like the hardest person on the whole show. Arguably one of the hardest characters that's ever been on TV. Yep. And he gets shot in the head by happenstance by some kid at the corner store. Like, completely unacceptable.
But I feel like it would have been hard. You weren't going to catch him slipping.
No, you weren't.
So, I don't know. I mean, I guess they could have written it a bunch of different ways. But nobody on the street was going to get him. So, I felt I was okay with it because it seemed like, of course, that was the one way. He was so prepared. He was so ahead of everybody else, and then something so dumb is.
Yeah, I think that's why it blew me. Like that's my biggest complaint. Tristan Wiles, yeah, he played Michael. Like just overall great cast, great show, just dopeness. 4 and 5, I don't even know, man. What other shows have I really, really enjoyed? And then that's what sucks because, like, I would put a cartoon right here, anime, like, boom, right there. Grey's Anatomy.
I was literally going to suggest that.
Grey's Anatomy. And the thing is, like, I've quit the last season and a half because I've been really pissed off with them killing everybody and just not necessarily destroying the show, but it's just turned into kind of a circus, and that's really pissed me off.
But I think
overall, it's a super solid show. Like, and that's one of those shows. Like, and like I know a lot of people who watch it completely agree with me. If you need to get a good cry, watch it. Just turn on a random episode because you'll probably end up bawling like a baby. Just the characters you love, and that's the thing, like you start to care so much about these characters. You love them so much. You feel their struggles. You're super happy for their triumphs. Every time they save a patient, like you are so invested in each and every story that they present to you. But then it's not just the stories individually, but the evolution of the hospital as a whole. Like at one point it was getting shut down, and then it got saved, and then just so many different things going on in a hospital. It's just like, dang, is that what happens in real life? Like, is it that dramatic?
Yeah.
So yeah, Grey's Anatomy for sure. And number 5. Does Netflix count? Netflix count. I guess my number 5 can be interchangeable with what is really keeping me entertained. And so right now it would either be between Peaky Blinders or The Last Kingdom. Because Peaky Blinders, like, if you've never watched the show, if you've heard about the show, like, watch it.
I had my doubts.
I know, you did.
I did, but
it is an amazing show. The next season coming up, I think, is actually the last season.
I think that's true.
Yeah, so I'm can't wait to see how they end it. But it's just Cillian Murphy, Murphy, as Tommy Shelby. Like, it's a character like that I didn't know that I needed in my life. Like, similar to Ghost, he's able to calculate, make a decision that needs to be made and save everybody, basically. The dynamic between the families and everything that they're doing to move ahead, basically. You know, like when they say we built this from the dirt, they really are building it from the dirt. And it's a really, really good show. Really, really well written. I love period pieces, so that drew me in, obviously. Just really great. And then The Last Kingdom, like, equal.
So you would have The Last Kingdom ahead of Game of Thrones?
Yeah. And I only say that because, like, to me, the last season of the Game of Thrones really tarnished the 100%. Entirety of the show. Especially the, winter's coming, the, what were they
White
called?
Walkers?
The White Walkers. Like, they built that up so much. From the very first episode of the very first season, winter is coming. Then winter arrived, and that was it. Like, it was just over.
Don't do that.
The fact that they summed up all of that into one episode, that battle scene that you could barely see on purpose, like, just...
But no, it was before that, because remember, and this is not a Game of Thrones episode, but really quick, when Jon Snow and them all got caught and they got surrounded, and then they ended up taking the dragon, like, that was still a part of that. I'm
not saying that it wasn't, but for...
So you just don't like that it all ended in that one battle?
Yeah.
And I think that was forced because they idiotically made it a 7-episode final season.
Yeah.
And so even though it was like an hour and 20-minute show, I was good with that. The way it ended and Arya dropped the joint and jabbed them.
I was cool with that. Like, I was super cool with Arya killing the Night King. Like, that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else about that battle, I was severely disappointed in.
Okay.
I was.
That's fair.
Cersei, she deserved to go in the worst kind of way.
100%.
And the fact that she and Jaime got to die holding each other with the building crumbling around them, they didn't deserve no romantic ending. They need their heads chopped off and displayed for the world to see or something. And that just went real graphic, and I didn't mean for it to go.
Just a little bit.
but that was super disappointing.
I agree.
And then Daenerys, like, we knew that she was going to have to die because she was crazy.
Listen, this isn't not going to be Game of Thrones. Okay.
I know.
We get it.
It was just,
right. Okay, that's fair.
It was disappointing. So The Last Kingdom over Game of Thrones, 100%.
All right. I'm not there. I like The Last Kingdom, but I can't just throw away all of what Game of Thrones gave me.
No, yeah, I understand.
And we haven't seen the final season of Last Kingdom either. And hopefully they can get it together. And I feel like, I don't know why that's so difficult for shows, and I think this happens a lot. It's like they don't end them right. And they just miss what?
I know you've never watched How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
That show completely pissed me off with the ending.
Really?
Yeah, it was awful. Because, like, the show is the premise of the show. And if you've never seen How I Met Your Mother and you're, like, currently watching it, like, skip ahead, like, a minute or something so that I don't ruin the end for you. But he spends the whole show, every season, starting off each episode with the story to his kids of How I Met Your Mother. And he goes all the way back to, like, his beginning friendship with all his friends. And then literally they get down to the last season and you figure out, okay, well, this is the mom. They show you the mom. But on, like, the last episode, they go and they're talking and, in his study. And the kids originally think that the mom was someone else that he had been in love with. And she's not. The mom is their mom. And so the kids are just like, so then you're still in love with Aunt Robin? And he's like, yeah, I am still in love with her. And they had, like, this symbol, and he goes to find her, and it's like, I'm still in love with you after all these years. And I'm like, are you for real? It was just an awful ending. It was. It completely negated the whole point of the show. And it's like, this is dumb. I hate you people for this.
Well, I did not see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we have quite a few shows that are coming up with the final seasons, and Ozark. I'll be curious to see how they wrap that up.
And I'm blown about that ending because I feel like they could squeeze at least another season out of it.
Yes and no. I believe if they give us 10 full episodes, they should be able to wrap up everything.
Oh yeah, for
plenty
sure.
Of time. And I think that is what's difficult, is knowing when it's ending. And it's kind of, some shows I think ended a little prematurely, and then other shows
just drag on forever.
And we don't need all of that. So we got a lot coming this year. So we'll see kind of how that goes.
Insecure ending this year.
And that storyline, to me, I feel like that's a show that could go on for a long time. Like, it's a group of friends. They deal with relationships. For what it's worth, this is the final season, and she's just finding her groove into the event planning or hosting or promotion. That is something I think, and we know. Shout out to Issa, got that big old HBO
I know.
bag.
I am super excited to see what she does next, though.
But I think that played a role in it ending, and I don't think it needed to end.
You can do more than one thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't think there would be spinoffs. I don't know what plan she has. I've heard some of the backstory to the deal, but I think that's one that's ending too soon.
For sure.
So the next thing that we want to kind of discuss is Snowfall. And let's see this one. Oh, y'all got there's spoiler alert, but y'all had plenty of time to watch it by the time this ends. So that's on y'all. So just a kind of high level, Alton, trash.
Big trash. Throw him all the way away.
And now, and we talked about this. So the premise to Alton is he's thrown with the Black Panthers.
Yes. So
he's an educated man. He wasn't the best father or husband.
He was garbage in those arenas too.
Okay, we'll go to garbage. He was. They embraced him. They welcomed him back. He's doing the right thing. He's working at a shelter. And in essence, he's thrown everything away. For, I guess, his conscience.
Yeah, it's definitely his conscience.
So because, and this is where I'm lost. In the idea of going to the reporter, did he think her report was going to stop the government from bringing crack or cocaine into the country? Did he think he was going to shame them into stopping? Because the issue seems to be he's running a shelter, and he saw the dad die and leave the kids, and I guess that was the tipping point for him. But what is your alternative here? This story comes out, and then what?
Yeah.
You and your family run to Cuba. So everybody at the shelter who's still dealing with all the crack is going to be out because you basically are running the clinic. Mm-hmm. You won't be welcome in the country. So you better have all the money you have. Don't make any mistakes on that. We saw in this episode that now their business dealings have been impacted. Yeah. Because they were investing in the property, and now that's been done. That's dead. And you're just going to run off. And if y'all don't come with me, that's too bad. Franklin has to make his own decision. So I set this massive fire. And now I'm leaving everybody Louis else to put it out. Leon and everybody else, y'all got to deal with it. Yeah. That to me is the epitome of selfishness and just idiocy. You owe me 20 years of being a parent, and you show up and in a year or two, because I think the time frame's only a year. A year and some change. You've managed to come in and destroy everything in an epic proportion way, and I'm blown away by it. Conversely, Delilah is her name. What's the girl? Dahlia that shot. Khadijah. I don't know where I got that from. She has the same. Oh man. I get it. It was her daughter, but she also has just gone in a whole different way, and I think this is the part we talked about Ghost, where it's like people got to constantly keep cleaning up other people's messes.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Franklin is nearly as good at cleaning up messes as Ghost or a lot of other people.
But he's also only a year into it.
He is a year into it, and he didn't come from that lifestyle. Like, Ghost, by all accounts, was like a killer for a long time.
Yeah. You saw the tail end of his gangster exploitations, or whatever you want to call them.
And we've seen what Tommy and Kanan are capable of, so we
Yeah.
recognize who that is. So I give Franklin a pass for that, and he don't got killers around him. So I think it's difficult, and he's been trying to be, and he has the government, like, so there's limitations to what he can and can't do, or just finding what he can and can't do. But that was just frustrating, and so I will be curious to see. I think there's 2 episodes left
of the season. Yeah.
Of this season. This already been renewed for another one, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, Leon, it appears he's going to let Jerome go based on the previews, and that's not smart. Like, the reason Louis just got shot is because of you, and you about to go with Jerome to them. Like, the frustration.
I think that's like, I think when we talked about Snowfall earlier, before in another episode, like, the frustration I feel watching the people around Franklin make the decisions that they make, like, his character, like, I can only imagine what his character actually feels like.
Right.
Because, like, he screamed on everybody this episode. Like,
he's had to do it a couple times.
It's like, at the end of the day, like, yes, you guys are 100% impacted by what's going on. But at the end of the day, if anything happens, it's really all going to hang on me. And y'all are running around doing all these things individually that are really, really messing things up. From his dad running his mouth to the reporter, to the uncle just wilding out every opportunity he gets, to Leon being as reckless as he has been. Every episode this season has been chaos from the first day. And now you got Man Boy planting the chick. What's her name? T? Whatever. Yeah. That's what he calls her, T. Planting the chick. So the whole time we thinking he found a solid one. She's just working for Man Boy.
That was a huge twist. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming originally either.
But I will also, one criticism I will have of this episode, or this season, is they built Scully up to be this guy. And he's like nothing.
Well, no, I think the thing is the death of his daughter kind of changed everything.
No. You can't be that guy and this happened, and he's been like a mute. Like, in that meeting that they had where they were all sitting there and she was going off, he just sat there. And he said something, in essence, he tried to calm down Man Boy and said, you tripping, when they was talking about trying to find Franklin's plug.
Yeah.
But, like, in essence, like, he hasn't said or tried to do anything. And that's disappointing to me outside of when he shot at Leon. But he should be going as hard to me as Man Boy is, and he's not. And I don't understand, given his mental makeup, why that is. I get the trauma of the daughter.
But I think it's because Man Boy has, like, basically taken everything over.
But they were trying to kill each other.
Right, but they squashed it all because of the death of the daughter.
But if I'm not trying to actively kill the person that killed my daughter, I ain't just sitting behind you letting you run everything. Like, this is my daughter.
Yeah.
My daughter died. I should be the one setting stuff up. I should be the one trying to get stuff manipulated. Or you should be bringing me into the loop on whatever the heck you doing, because it's my daughter.
Yeah. And
he's just basically sat back and, like, his girl don't even talk to him, really. She always talking to Man Boy or doing stuff on her own.
Yeah, but she tripping. Like, and
she's just reckless.
Let me rephrase that. Because she's not tripping. I understand 100% where she is. Mm-hmm. She wants revenge. And whichever way she can get it is how she's trying to get it. But, like, the fact that the 2 girls who killed the guy and brought him to Man Boy, and it wasn't even Leon. Like, there's a bounty on Leon's head. Here's Leon in the trunk of the car. And you bring, in broad daylight, show up to me with this person in the trunk of your car dead. for a bounty, and it's not even Leon. Like, they're all moving pretty recklessly.
And then Fatback, same thing. They bailed him out, and I'm not super familiar with the bail system, but I would imagine there's some kind of paper trail behind bailing someone out.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm sure the show will not go down that path to track that. Since how he got bailed out one night and he's dead the next, like, I would think, well, who bailed him out? If the cops would do half a job. And then, like, typically, my understanding of gang life is like church and funerals are like off. Like, that's like a common ground where you don't hit people there. Because it was actually a Power episode where I think they were at church or a funeral and they were trying to get, what's the light-skinned boy that sings? Dre. And so they were up giving the thing, and like they gave the word from church, but you don't hit somebody at church. Like, you don't hit someone at a funeral. Like, that's just, it's tacky. There's rules of engagement, so to speak. And she didn't have it. And then you hire two girls to be your shooter that aren't even gangsters. Like, they're hustlers, but they're not gangsters. That, like, it just, I imagine Man Boy has a similar frustration with his group that Franklin has with his group, and people just making bad decisions and them having to try and clean stuff up. And in essence, it pushed the girl to be reckless enough. What are you looking at?
Nothing.
Like,
No, I can't tell you.
Okay. What is it? But yeah, just pushing people to be reckless, and now they have to clean up said mess. So
it's going to be interesting to see where everything leads, because Reed was off the grid for a few days trying to figure everything, like money and guns and all of that. And now he's back and he realized the can of worms that's literally spilled over.
But he got everywhere. Right to it.
And I mean, for what it's worth, Reed did. Reed called Franklin's like, how'd you let this story happen? He's like, well, I was calling you and this is what's going on. I tried to scare her. She wasn't scared enough. She's getting ready to write the second part of the story. What you gonna do? And Reed did Reed. Yeah. He showed up at her house and was like, this time, you're gonna wake up. Next time,
you won't.
Not so much. So I'm really curious.
And he did that without a mask or nothing.
With nothing on.
So this is the reporter who's trying to out you. She doesn't know who you are. You show up at her house without a mask. Like, that takes a lot of unction to be like, this is who I am, this is how I roll, and play me if you want.
Yeah.
So no, I had a lot of respect, and he's dealt with a lot.
He has.
Between his dad's comments and feelings toward him.
His ex-wife.
His ex-wife.
His brother, like.
And that's the thing that, I get why the dad was mad, because Reed did just drop his brother off after ruining his life. But it wasn't trying to ruin his life. Like, the brother made a decision to come along for the ride, and that comes with it.
Yeah.
The risk, and it sucks that he, got caught up in that. But it was very interesting. We got 2 episodes left.
2 episodes.
It'll be interesting to see how the reporter reacts, how Leon and them react, and I guess I would actually predict. What do you predict happens here?
I'm not even sure at this point, because there's so many pieces falling around Franklin right now. I mean, I like the show of support that Reed gave him, especially after Reed had to go and see the aftermath of what's going on in Nicaragua. That whole tribe, those people that he was trying to help, like, they're all dead now. And they're dead because of basically Avi. But they're dead because of failure in a system that he built. So he's not dealing with that well. And so for Franklin, to say, like, I know if you had just left me to hang in the wind.
Right. Like, the last time they saw each other, I think he was drunk at his club.
Yeah, it was. And, for Franklin to say that after dealing with what he'd just seen in Nicaragua, it's like, nah, man, like I told you, I'm with you till the end. We just got to get this cleaned up, because right now it's real messy.
And he gave him good advice.
He did. Because I don't think, for what it's worth, Franklin was still operating under the assumption that he could trust everybody.
Right.
And at this point, he realizes, nah, you really can't. Because everybody wants to save themselves. And at the end of the day, like, they love Franklin for what he's doing. But if it's between myself and you, I'm going to pick myself.
Yeah. And they've made those selfish decisions time
and time again.
Leon with Wanda. Jerome has made a number of
bunch
decisions.
of things.
His dad is
his
aunt,
made everybody.
Yeah.
So I would like to say that Franklin at least comes out on top. Like, somehow deals with Scully and Manboy. And it's funny because there was a snippet of like audio that I heard on Instagram or something about Franklin talking about Manboy, and I haven't seen it in the show yet. So I'm just trying to figure out when he's going to actually say it so I can put it into context.
You did miss one.
You're right, though.
I don't know what the snippet was, but...
Yeah, he was just talking about how Manboy was in school, and he wishes he was as smart as Franklin is, but he's not as smart as Franklin is.
I don't think that's happening yet.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. And so... like I said, I'd like to see Franklin come out on top, but the odds are kind of stacked against him currently with the way things are going in the streets, plus the way things are going now that the deal has fallen through with the social climber or whatever you want to call him, and trying to turn more of his business legit. So, I mean, as long as he's alive, I'll be happy about that at the end of the season.
I think it'd be hard to kill Franklin, but after Ghost got killed, I guess nothing's off
Nobody's safe.
Because that still just blows me.
Nobody's safe.
I don't know how or why. I believe it was Courtney Kemp wrote that way, but that was rough. That was tough. So we've talked about, I guess it was just a general episode on crack and the crack epidemic and its impact, and it's come up in a lot of our different episode of podcasts, I guess because of really the era we grew up in and a lot of the stuff that we've been introduced to. Crack had a role in it. It had an impact in it. It still does to this day. How do you know if it's not even showing up?
Because I can see it.
You can see what?
How small your bars are.
Okay. Hello? Hello? No. So, in relation to the crack epidemic and its impact and role, it brings us to what we believe to be, and I've heard some kind of third-party reports. I don't know what's true, what's factual right now, so I'm not going to speculate. But historically, we know that the great, the legend, the icon, the rapper, the father, the uncle, the great man that Earl DMX Simmons was, he dealt and, fought the crack addiction. And so we wanted to take some time to really speak on really his impact in our lives individually, his impact on the culture. This is not about to be he had his faults. We're not about to highlight that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the crappy things, especially if you watch like mainstream media, news, all that stuff. Like the first thing they're going to talk about, or the first things I've been seeing already, have been how he got in trouble with the law, how he had substance abuse issues, and yeah, fine, those are all factual things that went on in his life. But he was so much more than those things. And for those to be the first things that people highlight in remembering him is just completely disrespectful to his memory. And for what it's worth, to his family, his kids, it's just wrong.
No, I 100% agree. I will say this thing, and we kind of talked about this because there was a few, not a lot, but there were some people, for whatever reason, that felt the need to, basically give him his flowers while he's here. And we talked about, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? And I feel like, considering when we kind of looked up and did a little bit more research for the highlights of like chart success and stuff like that, he did have a lengthy,
most definitely
criminal activity in his life. But the love that he has, from my perspective, what I've seen from the streets, even before his tragic passing, it was always there.
Yeah.
So despite, some of the things he's went through, people respect realness. And we've seen that in the last probably year or two with people like Tekashi, people like Bobby Shmurda, and others, that people respect realness.
Wait a second. People like Tekashi 6ix9ine?
Not that he's real, but the fact that he's not real.
And people respect that?
No. I'm saying the difference between the two.
Okay. Because that wasn't clear.
Okay, sorry, for clarity. So, like, Bobby came home, and there's been nothing but love. People were waiting, even while he was locked up. And he got locked up for some very tough...
Serious stuff.
That's a good word, serious stuff. But the fact that he took more time for his homie and not allowed his homie to come home early, like, the love has been there. And someone like Tekashi who's not that, and there's a bunch of rappers that don't live what they talk about.
Almost definitely.
Or don't live what they rap about.
I'd say like 90% of them.
I think there was an era, but from what I hear, it seems like a lot of rappers today, and we talked about Kodak, we talked about Lil Baby, we've seen Da Baby. Some of these current artists...
They're reckless, but I don't think it's necessarily... I think it's different. Because like, you talking about, for, example's sake, talk about Jay-Z. Like, we know what he was doing. We know for a fact, like, he got out at the perfect timing, because had he not, he would have been the one in jail for a long time. Versus a lot of the rappers today, they talk about what they're doing, but 9 times out of 10, they're not the ones doing it. It's someone else that they know. I mean, for what it's worth, like Rick Ross. Everybody loves Rick Ross.
I think Rick was a previous era. When I say today, I'm talking, like, we listened to that song on the pod, but it was saying the names of the people. Enough. And I think I'm saying for like the last 2 years, this phase of rapper, like the show said, they're walking indictments.
Yeah,
like
reckless.
They're reckless.
They put all their crimes in their lyrics. And
the 17-year-old, I can't think of his name, TK or something like that. Like, his story is crazy. Like, if you go back and look, like, he like murdered someone and then he rapped about it and then he ran on the road.
Oh yeah, and then the cops listened to the song and they charged him because they had basically a confession of the murder.
He rapped about cutting off his ankle bracelets.
Yeah, because then there was another thing that he basically confessed to in the song. And it's like, oh, well, here's this other unsolved murder that we had no idea about.
So
reckless.
I think that is why also we see the quote unquote cult following of some of these artists today, is because people can relate to them. That's why people love Gucci. For a long time, people loved Jeezy, and now the streets, maybe not as much. Maybe the corporate America likes him more, and that's why he's gained the financial success he has. But DMX to me was one of the first and biggest to do that, to not compromise who he was, and he's never compromised who he was from what I can tell, and still have the success, the commercial success. And a lot of people don't remember, like, he came out the same time as Jay-Z. He was out with the Ja Rules and the others that, people that today might think had more fame or bigger names. DMX was that dude.
He was.
Like, the impact, and we watched the Woodstock concert or festival show set he had, and like, to have that kind of impact, and this is pre-social media. This is really, I think it's pre-internet. When did the internet come out?
No, that's
like
there was internet
in middle school for us.
Yeah,
we did have AIM. We didn't have.
We're not that old.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking before, because Y2K came like right after that, and that was about computers. Okay, so there was internet, but it wasn't, obviously it's not what it is today. There was no social media of any real significance, and to have that kind of impact and people to know his song, and I'm not talking about people that are like me. I'm talking about people that are super, and there's no disrespect,
white.
Super
He's talking
white.
about white people.
No, but it's not just white people, because Eminem's white. NF is white. These are like white people. And
but you also have to think about it. At that time, white folks were the biggest consumers of hip hop, rap music. Like they were selling it to more.
But the content that he was talking about, like this is
it
like
wasn't for them.
right, but they recited it, they memorized it, they loved it.
Yeah.
Like they did later with with Wayne and Jeezy and people like that. But that was really the first of that kind of content that they was like in it. And so to see them, obviously I knew the impact and I've seen snippets of it, but then to actually listen to what songs he was performing and the way in which they recited it and knew it.
Every word.
And knowing where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ascent is just, it's almost unconscionable to think that, and this is again, respectfully, a crack addict that was homeless could get to that stage at that location and have that kind of impact on those kind of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And good.
For what it's worth, music is universal. Like I've been to festivals and sat or not sat and watched sets, and I'm looking around like I'm rapping the songs because like I love the songs, I know the songs, I love the artists, but I'm looking around at the crowd around me and it's like, you ain't never been to a crack house. Like for what it's worth, I've never been to a crack house.
Never.
But I mean, I knew where they were, but never
Okay. That's fair.
in the crack house.
Yeah.
No. It's like you're watching this it unfold in front of you, and it's like that love for the music and the vibe that it gives.
Yeah.
You don't get that in a lot of other arenas of entertainment. So whenever an artist, black or white, can cross over and people of different generations, people of different backgrounds, people who have different experiences in life can all embrace and love you, like I think that's always a beautiful thing. But
without losing yourself.
Without losing who you are as a person, as an artist. You don't have to compromise your music, because you hear that a lot now. Like you do a song and the record label, whatever, expects for you to make that song every time you come out with something new.
No,
and you don't want to do that. Yeah.
And he, like, it's just, it's really something to see. So I did want to kind of touch on, and there's a lot, and this was difficult, obviously, today. But I'm not going to do favorite. I'll do most impactful for me of my favorite DMX songs, or most impactful for me was the Rough Riders anthem, just because, really for me, it was the video.
Mm-hmm.
The song was obviously super dope. What about this?
I can't think of the name of the song.
But the R was the snowman symbol before the snowman symbol. The R, the Rough Riders R, like that was it. The 3-wheel bikes that everybody has today, like they had them back then.
Mm-hmm.
The Meek Mill riding dirt bikes, no. They've been doing that. That whole culture, that bike, that whole
everything,
scene, that everything, he embodied all of that. And when he came out, he gave it to you 100%, 120%. His energy, his effort, like all of that was there. And so because of its impact, because of obviously the way it makes you feel, when it starts, you know what's coming. As somebody that enjoys going out, when that song can come on today in any venue, and it's just change, the whole mood will shift. So that for me is probably my favorite, just because of all of its impact. There's a bunch. It's a sad day. Rest in heaven. I'll kind of let you get in. There's some more I do want to say, but you can kind of get into yours.
I mean, you summed it up pretty well. Like, I've been a big DMX fan for forever. Like, and it's so funny, like, listening to his set while you were watching it. Listening to his set and just listening to the lyrics of the songs. One, I had no business listening to that music.
100%.
No business listening to it. And I know a lot of people talk about how derogatory music is towards women now, but his music back then, it was in the right place at the right time, because he tried to drop that kind of music, now he'd get canceled. Like,
and surprisingly,
everywhere.
like to my knowledge, like the LGBTQ community has never really went at him.
I mean, for what it's worth,
But he said some stuff.
for sure.
Like the fact, like his experiences in jail, like he's been
vocal.
That's a good
It's
word.
a good word. But outside of all the explicit language, like his message. My favorite song, and for whatever reason I couldn't remember, I wanted to call it something else, but it's Here We Go Again from And Then There Was X. And in that song, he's really talking about bringing up a kid in the game and trying to explain to him the do's and don'ts, but he keeps stepping over the line. And like similarly to Ghost and Franklin, or whatever character you want to relate him to, like at the end of the song, it's like, I tried to show you what to do. I tried to explain to you how the streets work, but now you've put me in a compromising situation, so now you gotta go. And for him, I'm sure this was something that he actually lived.
Oh, for sure.
And then you have a contrast song like Slippin', which is easily my second, or it goes.
I didn't want to pick that, but from a feel, from a message, definitely, which is
easily one of
and
the
it's
best.
Relatable for a lot of different people. You don't have to be dealing with what he dealt with,
Yeah.
but the concept of the song is something that everybody
100%.
can associate with.
The message in his lyrics, and while they weren't like Black excellence, go out and go to college and all of that, like the message in his lyrics were relevant to people in the streets who understood what he was talking about. But like you said, you could still hear it and relate to it, find a way to relate to his music on some level. I don't think he gets people give him his flowers and all of that good stuff, but I don't think people give him enough credit for lyrically how talented he was. I know we've talked about the difference between rappers and hip hop artists. One, DMX most definitely had hip hop commercial success, as great as you could get at that time. But lyrically, I feel like he's heavily slept on a lot of different levels. And then people make fun of it, but he was a God-fearing man. Like, He loved God. And I have no question or doubt what happened to him, where he's at. Like, he's up there dapping up the big homies. Like, he's no longer suffering from any ailments that have kept him in the position that he was in this life. So that's always a good thing. He was just an incredible person. Like, his energy, his spirit. Again, I've never obviously met him, but I could only imagine what it was like to be around him. Like, he seems like, if you're on his good side, he seems like one of those people who you could sit down and have a conversation. You talk about things from like the streets to biblical context of some book in the Bible that you both recently read.
For sure.
He was eloquent, which a lot of people don't get, because like they listen to the sound of his voice instead of actually listening to what he's saying. And he was just a great person, a great human being, and it's really sad to see him go. So like I said before, obviously my love, thoughts, and prayers to his family, his kids. It's really unfortunate.
And that you mentioned the God-fearing part, and I wanted to get to that because there's I don't know if this isn't sacrilegious, but like his prayers are legendary.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of crazy to say that this person that had these lyrics to live this life also was a phenomenal prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, it's not though, because a good orator, like, if you believe in that love for God is there, like.
Yeah, but when you live that life, like you wouldn't think that somebody that comes from that way would also be. It's not that they can't. Just his authenticity, his, like you said, his ability to put words together, make as a rapper, make sense, but I think it's the conviction with what he said.
Yeah.
And so even when all the stuff that he was going through, when it came time to pray, he went in, he was there. He was fully committed.
Before the verses.
He did.
Yeah.
And I know he prayed at a Sunday service when that just
he
back
did
up.
Sunday service. Kanye's Sunday service.
Yeah. So that to me is just interesting. And you have someone that's in essence so down to earth and had that he could get somber and he could get deep, but then he made big party records,
club bangers.
Like he made him and Swiss and again Swiss, we love you, but before DMX there was no Swiss. And I don't know if without DMX there is a Swiss. But
that's another thing that a lot of people forget. Like Eve, he put quite a few people, producers, whatever. And
generally speaking, I would argue, or I think you could make the case, we don't have Rockefeller. We don't have, because at that time Def Jam was like on E.
Yeah, it was dying.
And then DMX came. And so Jay had put out Reasonable Doubt. I think he had put out Volume 1. But that didn't chart. Like, it didn't make them the money
that it
needed for Def Jam to be Def Jam. And then DMX came out. And in 1 year, he put out 2 albums. Not EPs like these new people. Not no 3-pack. He put out 2 classic fire albums. One in, I think it was like the summer, and then the other was in December. And I looked up the stats for them, and I don't know, metrics, whatever you call them. And they both, and obviously I knew this, but they both went, I think, more than 5 times platinum each in the same year as your debut.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't some established person that, and this ain't a double disc. Like, this is 2 completely separate projects by an artist who had not put out an album yet. He did that, and that's just, and the rest is history, as they say. And that's just, it's just crazy to think that somebody had that ability to do that. And then you see his passion and his work ethic, which is why you got what you got. People that have seen him perform, like, that's just who he is. There's some people that can rap really well, and their performances are not it. I've been to a number of shows, and I've been some really good shows, and I've been to some other shows where I thought it would be a lot better based on the songs that people made, and I was like, just didn't do it for me. And so my final piece, and then I'll kind of let you get into it, is we talked about award shows and how much I can't stand award shows and how out of touch award shows tend to be. And you can call this revisionist history if you want. I don't. He has 0 Grammys. And to me, that's just absurd. Like
I would think at minimum for Party Up, he would have won one.
Yeah. I would say Party Up. I'm trying to think of something that just should be a no-brainer. I think the Rough Riders Anthem should be a no-brainer. He should have got a Grammy for that. And then he had some really dope videos when videos were a thing. I don't know how he managed to end up with 0, considering some of the other people that have multiple, but it just kind of is what it is. So he did win an AMA, which isn't bad, but he's won 1. Like, that just shouldn't happen. And it's unfortunate that it had, but I believe he still had the success he's had. We saw him in the verses. That was one of my favorite verses.
Most definitely.
Him and Snoop, like the interaction they had, the camaraderie they had, the East Coast, West Coast kind of feel. I think it was a great meeting in the middle. And that's the epitome of what verses, I believe, is and should be. They've kind of gotten real friendly now with people that are like best friends. Like that, I'm not getting the verse. But no, really tough, really sad day. An icon from the era we grew up in. Granted, right around 2000, so it's middle schoolish. And I'll let you go because I know I've talked a little bit, but there's one other piece I want to get to. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The other part I think is super underrated about him is his ability to act.
Yes.
He was one, and I'm kind of going off the top of my head here, but he was one of the few rappers that also became an actor and did it at a high level. Luda kind of did it later. T.I.'s done it, but he made good movies.
I mean, Tupac did it. And
Tupac did
was
it.
good.
Tupac, yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I like DMX movies better, but Tupac did do it. For me, Belly. I'm not suggesting anyone go watch Belly, but I thought Belly was really dope. And I believe it was Romeo Must Die.
Black card. I've never seen the whole thing, only bits and pieces of it, and I don't really know why.
We'll fix that. Romeo Must Die I thought was really, really dope. I was a big Jet Li fan when him and Jackie Chan were going for that kind of battle. I think it was Ain't No Sunshine, that song, but what was that movie? Cradle to the Grave, I think?
Yeah.
With Steven Seagal. He's made some really, really good movies. And he was
big names though too.
With big names, and he had a big role.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't
some poo butt.
Yeah, it wasn't just some scene stealer. He was in it. It wasn't, no disrespect to Tyrese or Luda. They're kind of villains in Fast and Furious. The movie's not built around them.
Yeah.
They have parts. Bow Wow had a role in one of those movies. The movie.
Worst one actually.
I'm not gonna get on that either. But he played those roles really, really well. And so, just a man that's so talented, so beloved, we need more people with that kind of integrity in the world today. And he's done different poems on the industry. And he talked about the realness of, the issues within the industry long before Kanye did it, long before a number of other people. He spoke what's on his mind, and he wasn't a pawn for anybody. And I think
probably because he was too much of a loose cannon.
Yeah, no, we're not going to get into it, but I've read a bunch of stories on just his behavior when things didn't go his way, specifically in the music world. And some people knew, and he's embraced, he's been to jail a lot. So that was not a fear of his. And he lived his life as such. But yeah, that's really all I had. Great TV shows that we talked about, but ultimately, most importantly, we wanted to make sure that we did our part to throw our respect, our love, our appreciation for Earl Simmons and all that he contributed to the culture, to society, and really to the world. We'll see kind of what comes of it the next couple of days, the services and everything, but we lost a great one.
Most certainly did indeed.
Yeah. So we love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Share the Facebook group as well. We've done pretty well there, but it can always continue to grow.
Oh, wait. Are we going to tell them? Or is that separate? Can we tell them now?
There you go.
Can we tell them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we tell them?
Good.
So, guys, we are super excited to announce that we are partnering with EB Radio. It is a radio-based station. They are
an internet radio.
Internet radio station. Black-owned and operated. Out of Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
You will now be able to listen to the Bond Chronicles on their network. We're super excited. Starting
not this coming Monday.
The 19th?
Yes, the 19th.
The 19th, our whatever episode will air at 8 o'clock on their networks. We are super, super, super excited for this opportunity. Able to expand our listening base. And obviously, for us, this is the first step of many to much bigger things. Yes. So we're super excited to let you guys know We'll be sharing details in the coming days as to how you can get linked up with it and download the app. Free app. They also have like music playlists. They have other podcasts. So it's really super, super duper exciting for the Bonds. We're stoked. Yeah.
So again, we'll be putting that out on our social media as well. They are actually starting to do some advertising. We finalized everything this evening.
Sign that contract.
We're signing contracts. We're reading contracts.
I know, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Making I had to call them back. Like, what's this stuff mean? I want to make sure that this is clear.
Right.
But yeah, really, really big for us. We're really, really excited. We got into this, 2 months ago now?
Yeah.
About 2 months?
Barely. A month. We launched the beginning of last month. Yeah, but I think we've done 2 episodes on 1 week or something like that.
Okay. So yeah, like, we didn't know what to expect. We just trust God. We try to be obedient. And doors are opening. And there are more to follow. We've been talking about collaborating with other podcasts as they've kind of grown. Having some guests. So this is just the beginning. And so for those of you who've been with us, we definitely appreciate it. Continue to like and share. Continue to comment. It's just been a heck of a ride, and
so
we're enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. Love you, babe.
Love you too.
You're so dope.
Yeah. We have a special episode coming next week.
Right.
We're not going to get into all the details.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
What?
What?
Nothing.
We got a special episode.
We do have a special episode.
Okay, we got a special episode coming.
So be sure to be on the lookout for that.
Yes, indeed. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm done too.
All right, well.
Kind of hungry.
You eat real food?
I don't know, probably not.
Well, hey, doesn't my wife look great? She's been working so hard. Potentially too hard.
I know!
Ran into a bit of an issue while we were working out together last night.
I know.
So pray for her.
Yeah, my calf muscle, it's not doing too good,
yeah.
man. It's
You don't know if she got Kevin Durant or what.
not KD.
But yeah, keep her in her prayers. But she's working really, really hard. I'm super proud of her.
Thanks, babe.
She's been closing those rings and making me look bad, but that's okay. That is okay. And also shout out to her. I don't know if I've actually done this enough. My birthday was a couple days ago. She's been doing a great job. Just absolutely taking this thing. I am trusting her, and she hasn't let me down yet. So I've been very appreciative of everything that you've been doing. I look forward to what's to come, and putting the pressure on me for the summertime because it's her birthday. So yeah, God's been good. My wife's been great, and we love y'all.